So I was born in Warsaw, Poland, in a Jewish hospital. Uh, my name used to be Gita Milstein. My mother came, her maiden name was Sturman. She was a manicurist, and her clientele was most of it Polish people. And she had lots of them because she was a good worker. She knew what she was doing. My father uh, came from Mogilnica, Poland. That's where he was born. He did have another brother and a sister. His mother became a widow when the kids were small. And because eventually her sister came to the United States, so the sister sent for her to come. So in the 30s, exactly, I don't know when, but before the war, she came to the United States. So I didn't have somebody in the United States. My father was a butcher. And just before the war started, he and his partner opened a slaughterhouse across the river Wisła, which didn't last too long, of course. Now, as a small child, they put me to go to a preschool. In the preschool, there was only 3 Jewish kids. There was a little girl, there was a boy, and I. And there was one seesaw, and you needed to wait your turn to get on the seesaw. And one time, the small little Jewish girl was waiting patiently for her turn. When it came, we used to have over there, now they call them the bully, the biggest kid. He pushed her away and she said, "I am going now on the seesaw, you dirty Jew." And that's what I was called. I was called dirty Jew. And when I was looking myself, I couldn't understand because my mother prided herself that I was only dressed nice and clean. I was also called the Christ killer. I didn't know who the Christ was. How could I kill anybody? But what was happening that the preachers in the church used to preach that that the Jews killed Jesus, and the teachers in the school used to teach the same thing, but nobody ever mentioned that Jesus was born and died as a religious Jew. So when he pushed that little girl, even that he was a head bigger than I was, I couldn't take it. I punched him in the nose. He started bleeding and crying. And I say, "That is her turn. You have to wait for you." Well, from that day, I got a little bit respect. But when it came to play with kids on the street, I tried to avoid. In our house, we were speaking Polish. When my father and mother didn't want me to know something, then they started to speak Yiddish. They didn't know that I did know that I understood. So I was just going in a corner and laughing because I figured, okay, you just talk. I know what you're talking about. And the only one that was really uh, not talking to me, but singing to me Jewish song was my grandfather. He used to have a beautiful voice. So, so I knew Yiddish. My father was was estranged. I mean, supposedly he did love us, but he was good looking, and he used to have girlfriends on the side. So when he used to come from time to time, and one time I asked him to have a puppy, and he said no. And I was mad because I love dogs. And he said no. So he asked me for a book, and I took a book, and instead of giving to him, I just throw at him. And he took me on his knees, took his belt off, and beat the hell out of me. That I did have marks all over my legs because I was wearing short dresses. But he taught me a lesson. He said, you don't throw something that has knowledge in it. When you know how to read, you're going to find out that this is the best lesson that I can give you now. And he was right, because when I started to read, I never put a book down. There was rumors about the war, but being a kid, I didn't understand what was going on. So I didn't, of course, even if they would explain to me, I wouldn't know. And one time, my mother took me to a parade, excuse me, of Polish soldiers on horses. And she let me go for a second, and I went to a horse. I wanted to pet him, and I was almost under his hoofs. Lucky that somebody saw it and pulled me back. But any dog that I saw, I used to always go and pet the dog. And one time a big dog jumped on me, and my mother figured, okay, she's not going to go anymore. It didn't help. I was in our room, which was a luxury room. One room, kitchen in the back, everything else in the back in the courtyard. And I woke up, and there was noise. There was bomb falling down. The German used to have two kind of bombs. One used to demolish the house. The other used to put the house on fire. And on the street, probably one of the houses got hit by the bomb. And at that time, people used to have blankets from feathers. And the feathers started to fly over the street like snowflakes. Okay, so I still didn't know what was then, and my mother came back home, and I found out that we was being attacked. Now, to live at that time in Poland, it wasn't like today that if you have a frigidaire, you load it up, you go to the supermarket, you load with everything, and you used to buy bread every day. You used to, if you needed milk, you used to buy. There was no frigidaires. There was not even ice boxes. So starvation started right away. In the beginning, the bakers started to bake bread. You used to have to stay in line to get a loaf of bread. My mother used to know the baker, so she used to get a bread. Now, right away, they also bombed the water pipe. So it's not was only shortage of food, but also of water. And Warsaw decided to fight them. I mean, by fighting, it's not really fighting, but they took the trams that used to run, turned them over to make barricade, uh, making trenches. At 2 weeks, after 2 weeks, they surrender because people were starving. and the German march, and you didn't see any smile on their faces. Everything motorized, tanks, motorcycle, big, cars, not a smile on anybody's face. And the first thing what they decided to do, it says, okay, you're starving, we're going to feed you. So they give flour to the bakers, and they told them, bake the bread. But right away, they say, there'll be no food for the Jewish people. And, some of the Jewish people, they dress differently, they look differently. If a person like that would stay in line, he would get pulled, beaten up, and say, there's no food for you. And I mean, I didn't look Jewish, my mother didn't look Jewish, and that was our luck. My mother was staying in line, holding me in her arms. When our turn came, the German that was watching the line gave me a loaf of bread and my mother a loaf of bread, which was unbelievable because nobody got two loaves of bread. So as we walk, at the end of the line was staying a woman that she was living in our building. And every time that she saw my mother, she would say, hey, look at that Jew woman. And that was not an exception. Say, look at the Jew woman. She has two loaves of bread. By the time it's going to be my turn, there'll be no bread left over. So my mother gave her a loaf of bread, knowing that I'm starving, that I'm going to be crying for food. And really, that loaf of bread was not only for us, because across the street, the whole street there was only two Jewish family, okay, which across the street was living, before he passed away, before the war, my grandfather, his wife, and two young uncles. My grandfather passed away of cancer, before the war at least. So the bread was also to share with them. Because we was living in a section that was strictly Polish. It was called Wolska. Something like that anyway. So, and the woman was staying with her mouth open. She didn't know what to say. But sometimes a loaf of bread change a person. So anyway, in the meantime, a little bit before the Germans started attacking Warsaw, my father and a group of men left Warsaw to go to Russia because the border was still open. But to get into Russia, you needed to become a Russian citizen. And I didn't find out about it. I didn't find out that my father left even. So I didn't know nothing. My mother knew about it. And eventually, after some time, some of the men came back and told my mother that the German killed my father. He was trying to come back. I don't know exactly what, but they killed him. I didn't know about that thing till after the war. And so, but that time I really didn't care anymore because I was mad. He left, he didn't even say goodbye. Every day there was other orders coming from the German. And it started like, you cannot have more than 200 zloty in a bank and only take 200 zloty. I always try to figure how much it was in the dollars, but it doesn't work. to feed your family. If you have a business, you need to give the business away. Doctors couldn't practice anymore of only on Jewish people. Teachers couldn't teach anymore. So the thing is, no money, no job, starvation started. Then they decide to go do a calorie count. Who was getting how many calories? We started with Volksdeutsch. Volksdeutsch is half a German, half not. They used to get, I think, over 2,000 calories per day. The Poles used to get, I think, 700 and something calories per day. The Jews used to get 182 or 84 calories per day, which was maybe a slice of bread, some butter, and marmalade. Okay, that was the food. But still, life was going on. Till the Gestapo decided that they want everybody in one section of Warsaw, close to the railroad track. They gave us 3 days to move. I mean, it's impossible. So a group of the elders from the Jewish congregations went to another city where there was sitting a general that was not an SS, and he hated the SS, and he gave 2 weeks. My mother didn't wait too long. She figured, let's do it. She exchanged our luxury apartment to an apartment that when you put 3 single beds, that was the size of it. And my grandmother and my 2 uncles got also a place in the same building. They got even worse because they got with other people. And we're not talking about an apartment. We're talking each room. And in each room was maybe 10, 12 people. Because what was happening, let's say that today they're going to say, okay, the ghetto is going to be from here to here. Next day they say, oh no, it's going to be from here to here. So the people that exchanged their apartment found themselves on the streets. They didn't have where to go. An area that was designated for maybe 250,000 people, there was 500,000 people. Because it's not only from Warsaw, people starting to come from other places. And then they decided that they need to make a wall around the ghetto. The brick you're going to take from the houses that was bombed, you're going to clean them and you're going to pay for them. And you're going to build a wall, which was like over 11 feet high with glass. You're going to take glass, you're going to break the glass, which you're going to pay for it too. There was 13 gates. Each gate have a German, Polish policeman, and Jewish policeman. At the beginning, we was thinking, okay, Jewish policeman, it's going to be easy. But it wasn't. You give a power to a man, and he doesn't care how he takes it. Starvation started in the ghetto. Oh, there was rich people. They didn't have money. There was even nightclubs. There was theater. There was all different things. But there was not too many of those kind of people. Most of it, everybody was poor, and you try at the beginning, we was able to get out from the ghetto. So you took whatever you was have a little value to change for something, anything, just to get some food. But after a while, the Germans say, no, you cannot get out anymore. Some people didn't believe it. They went out, they got caught, and they got shot. So we didn't know what to do, of course. So it started to smuggle food. And who would smuggle the food? Children and women. There was a professional smugglers that they used to make lots of money, but you used to have money to pay them. And that's when the Jewish police comes. They used to have a quarter to bring a smuggler to the German. So they have to drop all the food that they used to have, and the German was to shoot them. Children, they didn't care. Sometime, and how do you get out from the ghetto? Sometimes there was a rumor that there was a hole in a wall, everybody would run to get out. Now the thing is, some places did have a building that was empty on the Aryan side and on the Jewish side through the basement or through a sewage. Just to bring something. Little children used to try to get just a potato to bring home for the family. Many, many times we used to stay at the gate and wait for a good German to let us pass. Now, Polish winters are very, very harsh. Sometimes for hours we used to stay. I used to cry and the tears was freeze on my cheeks. I have in both of my feet, two of my small toes frozen. I cannot wear nylon stockings. And sometimes we did find a nice German person that would let us out. My mother used to go to one of her clients who used to have a restaurant. She used to work, I used to help. We used to get food and needed to hide it on our body. You couldn't just carry it in. Now, in a ghetto, if a SS came to the ghetto, you needed to give him a whole sidewalk. One time, my mother and I was walking on opposite side when the SS came, and a little child didn't have enough time to get out of his way. He picked the child by his feet, knocked his head on the wall, and dropped the dead body in the gutter. At the beginning, if somebody died, they still did have some money to buy a box to put the body. Eventually, there was no money for it. So usually at nighttime, they would take the dead body, take all the clothes off, and throw it on the sidewalk. The group that used to pick up the bodies on a little cart didn't even have enough time to move them all. Sometimes a body would stay over there for 3-4 days before it was moved. And you walk by the dead people, and you didn't care because they'll figure tomorrow it's going to be you laying over there. So, it was like nothing happened. Hey, the person is dead. What the heck, Tomorrow I'm going to be laying there probably. The things that was helping it was Jewish kitchens. They used to have, and some of the buildings, some out, wherever they could put it. And you needed to stay in line to get a slice of bread and a soup that a potato peel would float in it. But it saves a lot of life that way. And usually what was happening that if when you get that slice of bread and you didn't have enough, and you wasn't quick enough to put it away, a child used to come, grab the bread from you, stuff the whole thing in his mouth, or even if there was water or sewage water, he would throw it in, knowing that you are not going to pick it up. He would pick it up and eat it. It got to the point that people become like animals. We used to have one cousin that was quite rich. So we went to visit him, and he offered us a glass tea with a cube of sugar. And he started preaching to my mother, why are you going out? You know, you're risking your life and your life of a child. And my mother say, I don't want to starve. And I was thinking to myself, you know, instead of preaching to her, why don't you give me some bread instead of the lousy glass of tea? And it got worse and worse. And it got to a point that already for some time we didn't have any food. Now, in the ghetto, there was factories that they used to do helmets and uniform for the German. And the people in charge was Polish. And one of them was a friend of my mother. So he came to us and he said, you know, I'm going to take that he's going to take me with him and bring me next day with food. So he took me. I slept in his house. They slaughtered a pig, and the fat on the stomach, which is really bacony, you know, with the skin, they wrap around my body. I mean, so tight that I felt like I am in a cocoon. So I wouldn't carry nothing. And it was under my coat. And we go to the gate. The German say, bitte Papieren. Looks the papers, alles in Ordnung, everything okay. And then he looks at me and he put his hand on my shoulder and he say, are you cold, my child? And I was sweating with every pore in my body because if that hand would go a little bit lower, it wouldn't be my child, it would be bullet on the spot. That food lasted for a while. Now, every day, 5,000 people needed to show up in a railroad station. And if they didn't have the 5,000 people, if you was the lucky person that crossed by the railroad, sure enough, you would wind out being there. Cattle cars, little window with barbed wire, Ukrainian soldiers on top with machine guns. The people was stuck like as sardines. The door would be locked from outside. And the train was going or to Treblinka or to Auschwitz. Some right away went to a shower, which was not a shower, with Cyclone 2 that would kill them right away. The strongest one survived a little bit. Usually children, they didn't have no choice, no chance. I mean, if a child was big enough and look strong. Yes, but the small children didn't have no chance. And that was every day. I only have, after the war, two cousins that was left alive from the whole family. One was in the ghetto. She was with other 3 or 4 women in a building. When the German came in, they told the women to go to the roof of the house and jump. The 3 of the women jumped from one side. She asked if she can jump from the other side. She jumped from the other side. She got caught on the pipe and slid to the ground. When the German came down, saw her standing, he said, "Now you're going to go to a camp." She was in Auschwitz and she survived Auschwitz. The food that we did have ran out. And my mother said, "This is not a living. The hell with everything. We have to do something about it." And somehow we got out again. So when we left the ghetto, we didn't have where to go. We started walking the streets, sleep in basement, sleep under the steps. And one day, as we were walking, the woman that my mother gave the bread saw us. And you never knew who was your friend and who was your enemy, because they would tell you to come with them. You didn't have no choice. You needed to. They would take you to a police station. You got shot. They got paid. So she said, "What you doing here?" And my mother said, "I'm really looking for a place to stay." So she said, "Okay, come with me." She used to have a building in a cemetery when she was taking orders for a headstones. She took us over there to that building. Every morning she would come from her house with food, eat with us, and share the food. We couldn't, and put that little tiny stove for us to warm up. That was bitter winter. At the nighttime, we couldn't have the heat because a smoke from the chimney would show that somebody is living in a cemetery. But you see how a loaf of bread can change a person completely. We stayed with her a couple of weeks, and then my mother found another place. And that was already where the uprising in the ghetto started. There was 2 uprisings in the ghetto. One was in January, which was very short one, and that was in April. At nighttime, I could see the sky all red because the ghetto was burning. And one day, and the thing is, that was on a 6th and 7th floor. And the woman, she didn't have a crazy son. And there was a cat, a beautiful white Angora cat. And they took a person to pay more rent. And the cat used to do his business in a sink in the kitchen, covering in the paper. But from the day that they took the guy that hated cat, the cat was going under the bed and doing his business. And the idiot son took one day the cat and threw him through the window from the 6th or 7th floor. Well, when you say cat have 9 lives, yes, they do. Nothing happened to him. And He went again under the bed. So I was cleaning it quickly so he couldn't find it. We were sleeping in a kitchen on a trunk that it was this way, but a bump was going this way. No pillows, no blankets. My pillow was my hand. But it was a roof over our heads. And one day, and of course, in the bathroom was in a courtyard. So you needed to wait at nighttime till you hear everything quiet to go to the bathroom. And sometimes somebody opened a door, on the first or second floor, you run back up and wait for it to be quiet so you can go. And one day, I just decided to sneak out, and I went to the walls of the ghetto, and I could hear the shooting over there. And I wanted to go over there. I wanted to go and fight. I wanted to help them. And I was standing over there, and I was crying. And a bunch of Polish kids, teenagers, came and saw me crying. And they asked, "Oh, you want to go over there inside?" And I say, "Yes." So they say, "Oh, come, we show you a way." Well, I was stupid. They took me to the basement. They was holding me and they was raping me. Then some kind of noise came and they was afraid, so they ran away. I got up, I just cleaned myself, and I never told that to my mother. I was afraid to tell her anything. But that day I made myself a promise. First, I don't gonna trust nobody. Nobody gonna ever see me crying. And I'm going to be strong. And I'm going to survive. And I kept my promise. It took the German more than a month to burn the ghetto. There was nothing standing. Everything was in a ruin. And then they got another order. The order was any Jew found in any of the buildings, the whole buildings would get shot. So the woman said, "You cannot stay here anymore." So there was my mother knew somebody, so she sent me over to the place. It was an attic apartment. The woman that was living underneath the attic apartment was the woman that used to have that restaurant that my mother and I used to come and work. So we was in the attic apartment, and she has a room, we have a room, and in a third room she was raising rabbits. And there was baby rabbits. And I wanted to play with the baby rabbits because I didn't have any toys. But the daddy rabbit didn't like me. So every time that I tried to catch the baby rabbit, he would come behind me and bite me. And I was so afraid of him. So one time she decided to do rabbits too. Oh boy, that was so good. Because don't forget, we didn't have any meat or anything. Now I could play with the baby rabbits. Now, most of the time, I was just locked to stay over there. And I didn't have what to do. So there was a Bible and there was a book, Learning Esperanto, the new language that was supposed to, everybody knew it and learn so everybody can talk to each other. and slowly, slowly comparing pictures from the Bibles and think I started to learn how to read. And when my mother was coming back from working, cleaning houses, she used to help me. And that way I started to read. But one day I decided to sneak out. And the thing is, every time that I sneak out, something would happen. Across the street where we was living in the building was a movie house. But when I started to walk, all of a sudden, a person, and I don't really, I think it was a man, stopped me and say, "Aren't you Blima's daughter?" And I say, "No, I am not." And I started to walk, and he started to walk after me. So I was afraid that he's going to know where I'm living. So I sneak into the movie, and I remember it was the old Titanic movie, the old version. I was there for a while, and I didn't know what to do. So I didn't even wait to the end. I sneaked out, and I started to walk in the middle of, I don't think, in Warsaw, someplace over there. There was a lot of people standing and looking at, from the bump, there was like a holes, and there was two places, and I went. So it seems that it was a woman was murdered. Her body was in one part, her head was in the other part. And I still wasn't sure if I am being followed. So I took the tram because there was the woman that we was living, her friends was living on the other side of the river. And I figured, okay, I'm going to go over there, and I knew them. So I took a tram and I went to see them. And I stayed too long because there was curfew. And after curfew, if you get stuck on a street, you get shot. So I slept over there, and I was so, miserable that I bleed from my nose all over the pillow. I have to apologize, but they say, "Don't worry, everything was fine." And it was still dark, like 4:30, 5 o'clock. I wanted to catch the first tram to go across the river back to Warsaw. And I needed to go through a cemetery to a German post and a wooden area. And it didn't matter to me. I really wasn't afraid. I was afraid what my mother gonna do to me. By the time I got the gate was open, I sneaked in. And when I came upstairs, my mother was so happy to see me that she even didn't beat me anymore. And what happened, because I was out, there was a window where the woman have her bedroom, but there was a window in the roof. Somebody broke the window, came and she stole things. So every time I did something bad happened. Now I was for good luck. I couldn't get out completely. I didn't have no choice. And then one day, all of a sudden, I hear somebody, is trying to break in again from the roof. And I went to her window and started yelling, "Somebody help, they're trying to, Nobody could hear me because it was so high. But the person that was on the roof heard, and he ran away. Eventually, the woman, she didn't know that we was Jewish, okay, but I think she knew because at one time, her brother came with a man, and he left the man with her. And one time I was staying next to him, and I heard him counting. Now, usually, if you go to a yeshiva or something like that, you're going to count in your language. He was counting in Jewish. And I went to my mother and I say, he is Jew. And she said, no. I say, yes, he is. I heard him counting. And she didn't believe me, but she went to him and she said, you know, two of us cannot stay here. And he said, why? Because I'm the same thing like you. So the brother came and he took him away. Also for a short time, because when I was sneaking out on a Baldem, and there was a, how you call it, when you make different kind of thing from wood. Carpentry shop. So for a while, and it was the smell of the wood. It was so nice, and there was a little girl over there, and we was playing, and my mother found out about it, so they sent me to a place, you know, all those little towns over there, and by a couple that used to have a farm. And the only thing that I remember is the oven that they used to bake black bread, and that black bread with butter. It was the best thing I ever ate. You give me good black bread or cake, I'm gonna reach for the bread. And when I came back, I used to have long hair. The lice was crawling on me. My mother took a special comb, put a newspaper, and comb my hair, and they was falling to the paper. She put kerosene in my head, in my hair, so I wouldn't have lice anymore. Okay, now what was happening? The front already started. From one side, the American, French, and English. From the other side, the Russian. And it seems that the Russian was very close to Praga. Praga was called the place over the river. It's not Czechoslovakia, Praga, but Polish. Okay. In 1939, the Polish government that escaped to London, England, they didn't want the Russian to come to Warsaw. They wanted the other side to capture. So they told the Polish underground to uprise. So it was two uprising in the ghetto and one uprising, the Polish uprising. At the beginning, everybody was in a basement. The woman have a little cubicle near the steps, and we was over there, and she didn't lock us, so I was able to walk around and listen to people what they have to say. And I heard, you know, people saying, "Oh yeah, there was a Jewish man that told the underground he wants to fight with them instead of they shot him." And other things like that. I used to come and tell my mother the whole thing. They decide that it's no good that somebody can see me, you know. So she locked us in the little cubicle. I mean, it wasn't probably this side. We used to only sit over there. So we was locked from outside. Like hours, days? Couple of days. We did have a little food and some water, not for long. And then one day, all of a sudden, there was a noise. Hand grenade was throwing down the steps, and we was next to the steps, and we hear rouse, rouse, rouse. 5 minutes or 10 minutes later, a Polish guy say, "You better leave because the house is going to be put on fire." And my mother say, "Well, we cannot leave. We don't have papers." And I say, "I don't care." I say, "I rather get shot than burn alive." So I start kicking the door, tear it open, and we went out. And I see a little dog laying, he got caught with a hand grenade. He was still breathing. We started to walk. Sure enough, in the middle of the street, there is checking for papers. And my mother said to me, "Do something." I mean, what I can do? I am a little kid. I cannot do nothing. But I figure, okay, I try. So I started jumping up and down, yelling, "I have to go to the bathroom. I have to go to the bathroom." What else could I do? So one of the German over there say, "You see that building over there? Go over there. Do what you have to do and come back." Well, instead of coming back, we just went behind him and started to walk. Now, the thing is, at the beginning, when they came back, the German, they went to every building and they were shooting everybody. The streets was full of bodies laying. That was for 2 weeks. By the time they came to our building, they cooled off, or maybe they died, ordered not to shoot anymore. So we started to walk, and on the skirt of Warsaw, there was a big, big church, and everybody was put in that church. And there was only one German with a rifle, and whoever came close to him, he would beat him with a gun. My mother found the person that we was leaving. She was something wounded. And then it came order, whoever wants to march today can march today. And my mother went to her and she asked her if she wants us to stay. And she said, "No, you go. I'm going to be okay." So my mother said, "Go and ask him if we should stay or we should go." And I say, "If I go, he's going to kill me." But for some reason, when I was young, I was lucky. So he pat me on my head and he said, "Go today, my child, because today it's going to slow march. Tomorrow it's going to be worse." But in the meantime, they closed those big, heavy gates. And I say, "But the gates are closed." He said, "I open it." So he opened, and there was a column of people. And what do you saw? Old people, mostly women, children. You didn't see any men. You didn't see any teenagers.
These were all Poles at this point, right?
That was the Poles.
Poles, not
Yeah. Oh, no, that was the Poles. Yeah. We walk, we march, I don't know, 6 or 7 miles, and there was only one Ukraine soldier on a big horse just going around the column, so nobody could escape. We came to a little town where there was a factory of rubber, and so half of it was taking for the factory and half of it was taking for a hospital. And it's run by the German, of course, and the workers are Polish, and they staying on the street, because nobody know what was happening in Warsaw, and everybody wants to know. And of course, with the German, nobody opened their mouth to say anything, And a Polish woman say, "Well, that little girl I would take." And my mother say, "What about me? Am I a dog?" So she didn't really know what to say with all the German and Polish saying. I say, "If you can pass like a line, I will take you." So we passed that thing. They took us to the office. It was August, hot, no food, no water. But, eventually you would get used to it. So they right away gave us something to drink, and a German officer came in and started asking, what was happening, different questions. And in the meantime, the woman disappeared. And we're sitting over there, and of course, we don't know what's going to happen. And he said, "Do you have where to go?" The German officer. And my mother said, "Well, there was a woman." As she was saying, the woman came in. Now, he didn't want us to go through the front like we came in. So he took us to the whole place, to the back, and let us out. She was living with her sister, and the sister did have the key to the apartment. So we were standing. It was a house, a small house with different apartments, a couple of apartments, small. And we were standing, and there was bushes in front, and all of a sudden that Ukraine on that big horse is coming and ask, "Any bandits over here?" And my mother used to hold a little basket with our belongings. So she throw that thing to the bushes, and we say, "No, there's nobody here." So he went away. So we have a roof over our heads. We slept on the floor because she did have one room. And of course, somebody needs to make a living. My mother couldn't go any place really. So I decided, okay, we make a little box on a string. I bought cigarette, and I was selling cigarette in the factory hospital. And I was really doing good money. My business was really good. And all the other kids, they envy me. And they started, "She must be Jewish because she's so lucky." And my mother say, "You better take it easy." I say, "I don't give a damn anymore. If somebody comes next to me, I'm gonna punch him. I don't care anymore." And one day I was late for some reason. And all the other kids, they were so happy, jumping, yelling, singing. I said, "What happened?" And they said, "Oh, they caught a Jewish engineer and they shot him." Well, of course, he did have papers, but they told him to. So they shot him. So I went over there and I took a look, and there was his handkerchief laying over there. I picked it up and I put it in my pocket. I went in a corner that nobody could see me, and I started to cry. I couldn't understand how kids can be so happy to see somebody being killed. It so hurt me. I really didn't cry so much for that person, that I couldn't understand why they would do something like that, why they were so against the Jews and happy to see a Jew being killed. Then came a tank division, and they was looking for people to work in the kitchen. And my mother say, "Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna work." So she was working in the kitchen, and the guy that was in charge in the kitchen started to talk to her, and she told him that yes, that she has a child. So he said, "Well, why don't you tell your child to come with the pot? If food is left over, we're gonna give her to her." The same with the other women that have children. So I have the pot. I was staying, and everybody, I try to be the fierce one, because then you get from the bottom. He used to pick it up. And
Soup or something?
soup. soup with meat, with everything.
This is the German tank division.
The German tank division with a black skull. Yeah. And something happened, I don't know, and I was laughing something, and the guy that was watching us didn't like it. So he took me and he put me to all the way to the end line, and I start cursing him. Well, he didn't like that. So he picked me up and he tried to throw me in a well. But lucky for me, another German came and he said to leave me alone. And then came an officer, and he needed somebody to clean his room, and my mother went to clean his room. And she did terrific job. So the highest officer came and he said, who cleaned this officer the room? And everybody pulled, oh, Jadwiga, Jadwiga. So he said, I want you to clean my room. So she cleaned his room, and he gave her a paper. She signed a paper that she is working for the German tank division. So there it was already, something that we have, right? They left, and all of a sudden it got quiet, like before a storm. You didn't see a German. You didn't see nobody. The only bread, for some reason, that you can't find, it was with kerosene in it. I don't know why, but... And then one day, as all of a sudden there was a rumor that the Russian tanks are in the next town. And I started to run like crazy. And sure enough, there is the Russian tank with a star on it. I jump on one of them as they start rolling to the town that I was. Now, another thing is that...
You jumped on the tank?
Oh, yeah. Because there was people already, and I jumped also on it. And the thing, the next town, what it was the town that they have over there, a camp. From that camp, they were sending people to different camps. So it was our luck that we never got as far as that. So there I am riding on the tank to my town. All the people are staying on the street, and my mother is staying over there, and she's afraid that I'm going to go with the tank to Warsaw. Of course, we didn't go to Warsaw. I went down. So now, all of a sudden, Russian soldiers started to come. And one was looking to her as Jewish, with a long coat, with that Russian thing. And she asked him if he was Jewish, and he said yes. So she said, I'm Jewish too. What should I do? And he said, in the meantime, just stay quiet. Because they didn't, it's still Berlin, and all that thing was going on. In the meantime, you stay quiet. So she took over my business. She started to sell cigarettes and also Russian newspapers. And there came another person, and she found out that he was Jewish. So she said, how should I know if somebody is Jewish? So he said, you know what? When you talk with a person, just tell him, I'm who? Okay? If he is Jewish, he's going to answer you. If he is not, if he asks you, what did you say? They say nothing. I'm who? His nation. Okay? I'm who? His nation. Okay? Now, most of these Jews knew about it. So then more and more people started to come, officer, and they found out that there's a Jewish woman with a child. And they say, you look for a place to stay, and we're gonna find for you get for you whatever you find. So we find in another little building a room. We needed a bed, and officers, a Jewish officer gave us beds, everything, whatever they could. Warsaw open too, so you was able to go to Warsaw. There was place that you needed to sign your name that you're alive. So if a relative would come, he could find you. So one day, I am walking on the street and I see a man walking. And he looks at me and I'm looking at him and I say, Uncle Henry? That's where I found out that my father was killed. I got very sick. I got sent to a sanatorium in Germany to recuperate. I was over there for a year. No. My mother got a job in a cafeteria. She was in charge of a cafeteria in Warsaw. She needed to work. After that, I went to Lodz, to another city, which was like a kibbutz over there, a city kibbutz. I was in the younger group. We used to go, because I did have a good voice, we used to go places singing. I was singing solo. And now the group decided to leave for Palestine. The group was going first to France. My grandmother, that was in the United States, of course, knew already that my uncle was alive, that we was alive. She wanted to come to France to pick me up, and I said, no way, I'm going to Palestine. So because my mother was working, she couldn't take care of me, so I went to live in an orphanage in Otfotsk. And all the children over there was Jewish. In my room, there was a piano. My mother wanted me to learn piano. I say, no, who needs it? I'm sorry now, but it's too late, of course. And she used to give me money to buy fruit. Instead of buying fruit, I used to go and buy books. I used to belong to 3 libraries because you only could take 1 book at a time. And there used to be a German Shepherd. He used to have his own house. Everybody was afraid of the German Shepherd. I used to go lay in his house, and he was up front, so nobody could see me, and I was reading. Or under the bed with a flashlight, just to read. And then become the state of Israel. The minute it became the state of Israel, we put papers to go to Israel. Because Poland was a socialist communist. It wasn't a free country. People think that socialist communist is the great. You have to live under, then you're going to know how great it is. So I didn't want to live over there because there was quite a few people that used to come, and they did have property. They wanted to go and get their property. The Poles used to kill them. I didn't want to live in a country that was hating me so much that they would kill me because I am Jew. It took us 2 years to get permission to leave. We was the second group that was allowed to leave Poland. We went through Europe. to Geneva, I think it was. From there, we took a ship, an Israeli ship with Israeli sailors. And watching those people, it opened my eyes, how they felt, free, not afraid, no nothing. I befriended one of them. He tried to teach me Hebrew. Uh, we was friends for many, many years. His wife, kids, I know. And it was terrific. Everybody was inside, bunks, beds. Or I figured I'm not going to stick over there. I was on the top. I figure I'm gonna inhale the fresh air, be with people that are feel free. That after a few days we came to Haifa port, and I saw those beautiful city on a mountain. I mean, it took your breath away. Now it's not, because there's so many big building. Now, what happened on a train, I found out that another girl, a friend of my good friend, and a boy from the orphanage was also. So we already have, we've been together, 3 people, which was fine. So they put us in a place that was very close to Haifa, with barbed wire, like quarantine place. And him and we say, what the hell is that? We don't gonna sit over here. Let's go see Haifa. So we started to walk to Haifa, not knowing how far it is. In the meantime, we went to a place that it calls Mabara, where the people that already went over here was free to stay over there. And there was a little girl, and of course we didn't know uh, only Polish, uh, Jewish a little, and we didn't know how to communicate with her. And so her mother came out, and we communicate in Yiddish with her. And she said, you don't want to go to Haifa, it's too far. So we decided to go back. Now, I never ask people for their name, which sometimes it's a mistake. My mother knew that we have family in Israel. We knew that they live someplace in Haifa. And we started to look, and we found out the family. So they make a reunion. And in that reunion, all of a sudden, I see the woman that were asking her is there. I also found out that my father's cousin was alive, and he married the woman that jumped from the building. Okay? So that, and then was another cousin of my father. He left for Australia. So that's from the whole family. My uncle found his wife. She's also survived. And that's it. That's the whole thing from all my family, which there was 2 young brothers. I mean, 2 young uncles. There was an older one. We have quite a bit of children. There was cousin and everything. That's it. Nobody survived. Okay. So from that place where we was stuck, they sent us to Mabara in a place. We used to sleep under oil, tent. Summer, hot in Israel. Okay. Then I started to going to Aliyat Noar, which is for young people. And I was helping the doctor over there. I knew how to fix things, you know. And then came a group from Switzerland, kids, and they went to a kibbutz, and one was sick. And after he was fine, I took him, and I liked that kibbutz, and I say, I want to go on that kibbutz. And the guy that was in charge said, you know, I send you to the best kibbutz there is. Don't go over there. Well, you know, you tell her me something, I'm going to do what I want. So I went to that kibbutz, and I hated it. I was supposed to learn half a day and work half a day. They took advantage of me. So every time that I did have a day off, I was going to a recruiting station and saying that I want to join the army. I was 17, and you have to be 18 in Israel. But I was so bugging them that they got sick and tired, and they say, if your mother signed the papers, we're going to take you. My mother say, no, I'm not signing. I say, if you don't sign, I'm going to forge your signature. So she signed. I went to the army. I went to military police with K9. I was mostly, sometimes I was training dogs, but mostly I was working with the doctor. And the first time we have an operation to take gallstone from a doctor, and the doctor looked at me and he said, are you going to faint? And I said, because there was blood all over, and I say, no, and I didn't. So I was in 2 independent parade in 1952 and in 1953 with my dog. I got discharged after 2 years or more than 2 years. And my doctor from the army recommended me to a friend that was running the Tel Aviv Zoo. So I was a zookeeper. And my rich cousin from the United States every year used to come and used to say, your grandmother wants to see you. Why she's getting older? Why don't you come, you know? And every time I was saying, no. But then in 1957, I said yes, and I came to the United States.
Father's mother?
Yes. My mother's mother passed away when she was young. And so I came, and I really didn't feel too comfortable with my grandmother, because she was crying about her daughter, 2 children, that they was hiding in a place. Somebody give them up, and then German came and then killed them. But I mean, and I didn't, what you crying? I was saying to myself, you're crying, you still at least have one grandchild. Be happy over there. Don't remind me all the time. So I wasn't too happy. And then I met my husband, who was from Brooklyn, of course. We got married. We moved to Hartford, Connecticut. We have 2 children. We wasn't religious, but we was observe the high holidays. And the thing is that I remember going to the big temple in Warsaw, because every time that I did hear a melody of the Kol Nidre, and that was always in my head, the melody of the Cornidre. But we wasn't religious. My grandfather was religious. We wasn't. But we was observing. What I was questioning is, if there was a God, okay, maybe the older people, maybe they sin. Maybe they have something that they did. But 1.5 million children, what did they do? They didn't do nothing. Why did they have to die? Why in the ghetto the children used to have to die and nobody give a damn about them? That I couldn't understand. And if somebody telling me about God, I say he must be on a very long vacation because he's not doing nothing. I never told my story to my children.
Why?
Because I wanted them to grow like a normal person. You know, my mother used to say from time to time something to them. I never did. The first time my daughter heard my story is when I went to Fort Huachuca and I was talking to the soldiers over there. That was the first time that she heard. My son lives in New Jersey, so he never heard my story. You know, when I go to school and I tell my story and I get letters from the students, one of the letters was a girl was saying, I was thinking of committing suicide. Because of you speaking, I decided I will not do it. And that's what keeps me going. When I left Poland, it was the happiest day of my life. I felt free. I can talk whatever I wanted to. I can do whatever I wanted to. And the hell with everything else. To teach history. You don't have a country if you don't have history, and if you don't teach history. And it seems that this is what is happening over here today. Nobody knows the history. Some gonna say, it's nothing important. Some gonna say, maybe we learn something from it. Maybe there is, maybe things should be changed around. You don't know human, you know?